Adso, the novice monk in Umberto Eco's The Name of the Rose, gives an argument against the existence of God that is not familiar nor really easily understood. Let's take a look at what his point is and see how it stacks up. Come on in. We're talking philosophy. The last thing I want to discuss from the closing exchange between William and Adso in The Name of the Rose deals with the qualities of God. I say the qualities instead of the existence because all that you can genuinely challenge logically as regards existence is logical contradictions involving items with one defining characteristic. No bachelors have a wife. Socrates has a wife. Therefore, Socrates is not a bachelor. The term bachelor only has one defining property, wifelessness, and Socrates has a wife. This contradicts the possibility that he is a bachelor. So Socrates, the bachelor, does not exist. God, on the other hand, is far more complicated. Even the old reliable problem of evil only demonstrates that no God can be all-knowing, all-powerful, and all-loving. Any one of these properties could be abandoned and God still exists. Mark Twain used to argue that God did not like human beings, much preferring flies. William James argued for a God which was not omnipotent, but he did that on the grounds of meaningfulness of human life and free will. And free will figures in Adso's argument. Let's read the passages and pick out the kernel of the argument. It is hard to accept the idea that there cannot be an order in the universe because it would offend the free will of God and his omnipotence. So the freedom of God is our condemnation, or at least the condemnation of our pride. I dared for the first and last time in my life to express a theological conclusion. But how can a necessary being exist totally polluted with the possible? What difference is there then between God and primogenial chaos? Isn't affirming God's absolute omnipotence and his absolute freedom with regard to his own choices tantamount to demonstrating that God does not exist? William looked at me without betraying any feeling in his features, and he said, "How could a learned man go on communicating his learning if he answered yes to your question?" So Adso has made the same mistake so many first-time teachers do. He jumps into his argument at the end, not having provided all the groundwork. Let's take a moment and figure out what that groundwork might be. In some ways, Adso's argument resembles Epicurus on the gods. Epicurus believed the gods to be perfect. As such, they had no interaction with humanity, which is imperfect. Any interaction would pollute the happiness of the divine. Since humans are frail and weak, and they will always disappoint. Therefore, such interaction does not take place. Epicurean divinities do not act, existing independently of human reality. But the Christian God does interact with humanity. Adso has noticed that if God is omnipotent and has free will, there is nothing God cannot do. Therefore, anything can happen. Since in order to be free, God must be able to do other than what he in fact does do. That's, after all, part of what free will means. But if God could have done otherwise, then some element of God is contingent. How can God, the necessary being, that being which has to exist, which governs the universe, have an element of the contingent in him. This is surely contradictory. Further, if the cosmos is that contingent, that is to say, if it's purely a matter of God's whim how the universe works, then trying to make sense of the cosmos is impossible. Human knowledge is impossible. I'm concerned with the contradiction between the contingent and the necessary, but I'm going to take it one step further. It is knowledge, human knowledge, that gets Adam and Eve thrown out of the garden. Therefore, human knowledge must be possible. Otherwise, Adam and Eve did not sin. But human knowledge is impossible if the cosmos is contingent on God's free will. Whether you look at Adso's contention that God cannot be both necessary and contingent, cannot both be the organizing force of the universe and still have free will, or whether you consider his corollary conclusion that human knowledge is impossible, and my inference from that human knowledge has to be possible, God's qualities look to be in quite a disarray. But the nature of the divine is not Adso's problem, nor is it Williams'. They, like Echo, are concerned with human knowledge. Is the universe organized? Can it be understood? And if not, then how can a learned man continue to teach? There are those who appeal to the Stoic notion that God is logical, will only will that which is logical. On the one hand, that begs the question. Logic is a universal order. If you put that order in as one of your premises, God is logical, yeah, you're going to get God is logical in the conclusion. On the other hand, no biblical dictum requires God to be logical, nor does any philosophical proof. Tertullian famously said of Christianity, "Prorsus credibile est, quia ineptum est." It is certain because it is absurd. All we get from the Bible, all we get from philosophy are discussions of God's power and his knowledge, the very things on which Adso builds his case. So our book on humor and human fellowship ends on a sour note indeed. One gets the feeling that William has given up on God and prefers to believe human knowledge is possible. Adso, when we see him at the end of his life in the epilogue, has returned from the heretics, as so many do. Divine qualities and human learning have both been left far behind. Now that you've seen one of our episodes, we hope you'll return and keep talking philosophy. The easiest way to do that is by subscribing. You'll be notified of when new episodes appear, and you'll have a bookmark back to the already existing episodes. This video is produced under the patronage of George Hales, our executive producer, and courtesy of Andrew Beeman Cavallaro, our producer. If you want to become part of our support team, please go to www.patreon.com/talkingphilosophy for more information. We'd also like to give a shout out to our friends of the channel. If you have watched at least 5 videos from this channel, please let me know in the comments section, and I will be glad to list you as a friend of the channel. Just give me the name you'd like to be listed under. Thank you again for watching this video, and keep talking philosophy.